Hi, Glenn A. Baker here. Tonight, in an Australian television premiere, the outpouring of admiration and affection that was the October 2007 concert for Max at Melbourne's St Kilda Palais, staged to financially aid and to bolster the spirits of the luminous and legendary Kiwi-born soul singer Max Merritt. This incredible event drew together over 25 recording artists, 50 musicians and 70 crew, and left the nerve ends of a fortunate audience tingling. Venerable voices sang Max's hits and their own, with the roof being lifted off by renditions of Fannie Mae, Reet Petite, Western Union Man, Slipping Away, Try a Little Tenderness and almost 40 more. Seductive soul and roaring rock of the first order. It's not as if we haven't seen it before. The eager willingness of Australian music to take care of its own. The generosity of spirit that we saw at the Good Vibrations concerts for Mark Hunter, the Gimme Ted concerts for Ted Mulry, and the Artists Unite for Lobby Lloyd night, to name but a few instances, has been in place for as long as I can recall, and on every occasion at concerts convened to assist those battered by misfortune ranging from illness, accident, legal defeats to natural disaster. The sense of camaraderie, common purpose, concern and ultimately celebration has been overwhelming and unforgettable. The man himself was not at the concert for Max on the evening of 21 October 2007 at the venerable St Kilda Palais, where incidentally in 1966 Max Merritt and the Meteors had supported the Rolling Stones at 6 shows. But everything he represented was the friends and devotees who gathered there to whip up some righteous fervour, to send out their admiration in waves that must surely have reached him in the Northern Hemisphere, had all been, to some degree, touched or shaped by his extraordinary half-century musical legacy. They would have to have been, if only because Australasian rock was. Let there be no doubt about that. Max had always been a crowd pleaser, starting in 1958 when he first made the charts in New Zealand with Get a Haircut. He had a fine, gravelly voice that led credibility to everything he sang, and when the Meteors crossed the Tasman at the end of 1964 and began dishing out R&B, rock and roll, Mersey beats, surf pop and an unrelenting dance beat, the floors filled. From 1965 to 1967, Max Merritt and the Meteors were absolutely the live band on the eastern seaboard, the ultimate discotheque kings. Entranced fans would follow them from gig to gig, hooked on Max's peerless funk. Max had refined his passion for soul music after being turned on to Otis Redding's Dictionary of Soul album, particularly the track Try a Little Tenderness. It was the sound and style he'd been looking for, his niche. At venues like the Whiskey A Go-Go in Sydney, frequented by Vietnam War soldiers on R&R leave, they were red hot, incandescent even, and young players sat at their feet to learn how it was done. Though they were sidetracked by an appalling car accident that saw Max lose an eye, at the end of the 60s, the bristling excellence of the Max Merritt and the Meteors album and the national hit Hey Western Union Man delivered on all the promise. They were Sunbury headliners in 72 and 73, flying home to do so from their new base in London, where they would become the first signing to the British arm of Arista Records. Over Christmas 1975, Max's gritty ballad Slipping Away was at number 2 on Australia's national charts, and he and his new Meteors were soon sweeping across the country on a triumphant return tour. So when the array of admirers gathered together at the Palais on that fine night in October, there was certainly no shortage of repertoire and stylistic inspiration to draw upon. There was a smoke and soul tone to the proceedings, inescapable really when voices the timbre and texture of those belonging to Swanee and Renee Gayer, Doug Parkinson, Vanessa Amorossi, Wendy Stapleton, Peter Couples, Joe Camilleri, John English, Ross Wilson and Mike Rudd are on hand. bolstered by the pristine pop and rock tones of Russell Morris, John Paul Young, Darryl Braithwaite, Normie Rowe, Marcy Jones, Dinah Lee, Kevin Borich, James Rain, Mike Brady, Ian Pee Wee Wilson, Lindsay Field, Lisa Bade, Ron Martini and Joe Crichton. And it wasn't just the stellar singers that gave the proceedings the right textures. Alert audience eyes combing the stage would have identified stalwarts of a few musical generations, such as hard-honking saxman Jimmy Sloggett, Skyhooks guitarist Bongo Star, Eric McCusker and James Black of Mondo Rock, John Watson of Australian Crawl, Tony Naylor of the Bootleg Family Band and Avalanche, Warren Pig Morgan of Thorpe's tempestuous Sunbury Aztecs, Ronnie Peel from the La-Di-Das, Sam C of... Geesh, where do I begin? Players of myriad strain, many coming together on relatively short notice and effortlessly intertwining their licks to display affection and respect and keep it hot and tight. The swift juggling of schedules to make it all work, John English shooting down from Newcastle after a matinee performance of Blood Brothers, still peeling sticking plaster off his face in the wings, Russell Morris out on a crack of dawn flight with myself to entertain peacekeeping forces in the Solomon Islands. "We wouldn't have missed it for the world" was a phrase oft uttered. Everyone in attendance seized upon their own highlights, but some were unanimously acclaimed. Vanessa Amorossi, flanked by guitarists Phil Manning from Chain and Kevin Borich from the La-Di-Das, just ripping through a scalding version of Piece of My Heart. Wilbur Wilde and guitarist Michael Christian opening the second act with an unexpected heart-tearing treatment of Mark Knopfler's Going Home theme from Local Hero. Stylus' Peter Couples nailing the taut emotion of the sublime slipping away so powerfully that, as John English has put it, he made everyone cry. Even if, I might add, he did get the lyrics wrong. Then there was Ross the Boss Wilson and Renee Gayer getting down and dirty on one of Max's two live signature songs, Fannie Mae, and Wendy Stapleton and Swanee wailing away wonderfully on the other one, Try a Little Tenderness, with a pumping Swanee backing up again to help Paul Norton